I do want to share with you a wonderful, wonderful quote. I don't like to read a lot, but um, a marvelous quote that I'll probably read twice. I'll try to contain my excitement because it's not quite 6:30. About how here we are, and I bet that you're a little bit sick of conditions right now. Have you had the feeling at any point that you wish that we could get back to real life again, ordinary life, and just a little bit? You felt kind of constrained or lonely or tired of the endlessness of it and not knowing when you're going to get vaccinated or when things are going to be safe, a little bit safer. And so there's this pining inside. Sometimes it feels like pining. Sometimes it just feels like fatigue. Sometimes it just feels like a kind of depression, the sameness and repetition of our lives being separate from one another. So I found this quote by William James, the great psychologist and philosopher, and brother of Henry James, the novelist. And the quote is, "I'm done with great things. I'm done with great things and big things and great institutions and big successes. I'm for tiny, invisible, molecular, moral forces that work from individual to individual, creeping through the crannies of the world like so many roots, like capillaries that ooze water, that given time will break down the rockiest formation." I left the quote in that last part. But if we think of this, and this is something that you would feel if you were in a monastery or in a retreat, this feeling at a moment of completely giving up. I give up. There will be no escape and no comfort. And in that moment, as bleak as it feels, it can occur to you, or not even to your mind, but to something inside your body or your heart, to just soften and focus on these little tiny moments that it might occur to you that you could just be real. That's it. You could just focus on being real. So, since it's a winter night, I thought I would tell you a micro story so you can just relax a bit and not feel lectured. And this story is my adaptation in the moment of a story called The Velveteen Rabbit. The Velveteen Rabbit, as many of you know, was a plush bunny, a stuffed bunny that was given to a little boy in England one Christmas a long, long time ago. And he was very excited to be given as a Christmas present. But his feelings were hurt almost immediately because there were all these fancier younger toys, more modern, clockwork, mechanical. So the little boy couldn't help but be attracted to those. And the Velveteen Rabbit, he was called Velveteen because that was the material he was made out of, was stuck in a cupboard and forgotten. And he was very, very disappointed because he had really wanted to have this peak experience of being a real to a little boy. So he sat there feeling just like we do in our houses and our apartments, just really cut off and sad. But there was this wonderful, big, saggy, stuffed horse sitting next to him on the shelf who looked like hell. And I said to the Velveteen Rabbit, don't be sad. Don't be sad. All these things pass. That fascination will pass. And the rabbit said, I just want to be real. I want to be real. And he thought that meant being loved by the boy. And the horse said, you know, you can become real. But I have to tell you, it takes a long time. It took me a long time. And you have to go through a lot. And that's why I look like this. He looked saggy and he looked old and he had lines. But he had been made real by life and by the love of another boy. So he told the Velveteen Rabbit, just be patient. Be patient because these conditions sitting here in your house or your apartment are actually leading to something. When you just keep coming back to yourself, noticing your state, noticing what you most deeply wish for. So soon enough, the boy slept every night with a certain stuffed animal and it was misplaced. So the nanny, he lived in England, he had a nanny, the whole English thing, grabbed the rabbit and stuck him into bed with the little boy, who very quickly became attached to him and began to treat him like he was real. And he took this bunny everywhere on picnics and out in the yard. And the Velveteen Rabbit was so happy because this experience of love from the boy was making him feel real. Except one day he was sitting there in the forest in a picnic in a clearing, and some real rabbits came up. And they were very curious about him. Like, do you want to hop with us? Do you want to play with us? And and the Velveteen Rabbit was very embarrassed because he didn't actually have hind legs. It was all just one stuffed piece. And he tried to conceal this fact. But one of the real rabbits got close enough to sniff him and check him out and got really freaked out, saying, this isn't a real rabbit. And off they ran. So this was a little bit haunting to the Velveteen Rabbit because he was getting his sense of being real from this one person, but not from the world, not from his depths. So he forgot about it until the little boy got very, very sick with scarlet fever, which comes from strep throat when it's not treated, apparently. And he was sick for a really long time. And he clung to the rabbit, and the rabbit was so happy to be a comfort until he got better. And the doctor wanted him to go to the seaside. And the rabbit thought, yay, a trip. No. Everything in his room was to be burned. This was how you disinfected a space. So all the toys, including the rabbit, were put in a sack and taken to the garden. And the next morning, the gardener was to build a big bonfire and burn them all. And the little boy went off to the seaside. And so the Velveteen Rabbit said, you can imagine how he would feel. He lived his entire life depending on being made real by this little boy. And now what? So he started to cry. He started to cry. This was the end. It was curtains for him. And it all felt so bleak. And with every tear that fell, a flower bloomed. And this is kind of like how astonishing it can feel to watch the seasons change, even though you're bereft. Spring is coming. How could this be happening? But inside that flower, this is where the Buddhism comes in. Just like inside a lotus, the flower opened, and inside was green Tara. Here I'm giving the fairy a new name, but it's the same impulse, a force of regeneration and healing and relief. That just when you think you're at the end of your rope and that your whole life is just going to become desolation, this unexpected force appears for new life. And Green Tara says to the rabbit, you know what? This isn't the end. This is the moment when you can really become real in your own terms, in the eyes of the world. And she took the bunny into the forest where there were real rabbits and embraced him and gave him a kiss. And he became real. And it was so unexpected. This feeling of freedom and this movement within and this feeling of a force of vibrancy inside that could only be called love. That feeling of being alive and belonging to life. So he hopped around with his new friends, his kin, his Sangha, and in came the little boy who was delighted but looked at him curiously because there was something familiar about him. But he was so much more alive than the little boy remembered. And then off he hopped. And the thing that is beautiful about this story, which I've taken liberties with, is that it does convey that we wish so much to be real, to be seen by someone with love, to be made real. And one short moment at a time with a practice like this, we begin to discover that we become real from the inside. That there is a force inside that feels like sensation of vibrancy and ease. That's love. Love itself. And it's not a romantic entanglement. It's not something that depends on another. It depends on our own wish to be here. And as unexpected as it might seem to now quote James Baldwin or with the Velveteen Rabbit or paraphrase, he says, freedom, that feeling of being free and alive and at ease and belonging, isn't something that can be given by another. It's something that we take. And people can be as free as they want to be. And I would suggest that that taking isn't, it's a moment of just being here, taking an inner seat, an inner stand, and saying to ourselves, I wish to be. I want to be here. I want to know what it's like to be really alive and free. I want to be real. So let's take our seat and then we can talk. So we take a comfortable seat. And notice how it feels to take as much time as you want, just to really grant yourself the space and time to be really comfortable, to take up space and let your back be straight. And notice that there are tensions inside your body that you can allow to relax. And maybe that's your face, maybe shoulders. Just let yourself give your attention to your body. And see that this attention is just seeing, just attending, not judging. See that this attention softens you. It begins to relax you. And see that attention meeting sensation brings a feeling of presence. And see that when you begin to be taken by thinking, you can gently come back to the sensation of sitting here, being seen by an attention that doesn't judge. So see that there's a stillness here and that you can rest in this stillness. And see how it feels to be seen by this presence that doesn't judge and comment, just sees. Notice the light and warmth inside you, a light of attention, a warmth of life. Notice when you make this movement of return to the body, to sensation, you open to this presence, this attention that connects you to life. When you get lost in thought, just come back and let go. Sink into sensation. Notice that you're not alone, but in intimate exchange with life, with air, with impressions, with sensation and perception, part of life. and to see how it feels to be seen by an attention that accepts everything just as it is. That welcomes you to be you. Come home to presence and find ease, opening, and belonging. But just rest in awareness. And notice that you feel connected to the other people here and to life. Let yourself take root in your life and open like a flower. So thank you for your attention, for your practice. And if you have questions or observations about your practice, we'd be happy to hear them. And notice that even when you speak,